In this lecture, I'm going to give you an overview of the moving average crossover system that we will use in the rest of the course. The moving average crossover system is one of the oldest systems ever used in trading. Basically, what happens is one puts a moving average on the chart that is an average of the price movement over a period of time. So let's put a moving average on this particular chart, and they fall under trending indicators, and I'll put the moving average on, and I'm just going to put a 21 moving average on the chart to give you a feel of what the moving average looks like. So this line represents the average movement of the price over a 21 period. In other words, 21 candles. So to get a sensitive reading of the moving averages, you would do a moving average that is measured over fewer candles. And to have a less sensitive reading, you would do a moving average over more candles. Now, I like using sensitive readings, so I'm going to change this moving average to 6. And let's see what that does. And as you can see, it's actually not giving the greatest trading signals because the moving average is actually going through most of the candles on this particular chart. Where the magic side of the magic moving average comes in is that if I then take the same moving average and then just shift it, and I'm just going to shift it by 6. So we've got a moving average of 6, and I'm going to shift it by 6, and look what happens on the chart. Immediately, there are a few things that happen. Firstly, the buy phases are much easier to identify. The sell phases, the same thing. And if we look here, there's a sell phase that was easy to identify. And by the way, sell phases are when the price is below the moving average, and buy phases are when the price is above the moving average. Also, what happens when the shift is applied is that you have much cleaner cutovers from the one phase to the next. So if you look over there, the cutover is a clean cutover. Cutover over there is a clean cutover. So by moving the moving average or shifting the moving average into the future, you have much cleaner cutovers and you have much easier identifiable phases in the market where you can identify the buy phase and the sell phase. So how the moving average system works is very simple. When the price moves over the moving average and closes below the moving average, you would enter a sell, and you would stay in that sell for as long as the price is below the moving average. The minute it goes over the moving average and closes above the moving average, it then moves from the sell to the buy phase, and you exit your sell transaction and you enter a buy transaction, and you stay in that buy transaction all along until the price again closes below the moving average, which means the buy phase is over and the sell phase has now started, and you would exit. So it's a very simple system. One doesn't have to use stops. You don't have to use targets. You just enter when the price first enters a particular phase, and you exit when it crosses over the moving average into the next phase. Very simple system, and it looks quite effective as a trading system. There are, however, some deceiving elements in that, for instance, there's a nice downtrend. It looks like you could make a reasonable amount of profit there, but if you look at where you would have entered the sell and where you would have exit the buy, you in fact would most probably break even during that phase. The other thing about this system is that you end up giving away, for instance, that move from the top of the price movement down to the close below the moving average, you are giving back to the system, and in this case over 200 pips was given back as the phase changed, and you actually lose that profitability by waiting for the price to move over the moving average. But that's the nature of this particular transaction. So that is the basic moving average crossover system. Now, the one we're going to be looking at today, we're going to be adding a lot of filters. Now, the filters are basically things like, what if we use a stop and a target? Does that improve profitability? What if we only trade on certain days of the week? So we ignore crossovers that occur in the days that we don't trade, and we take the ones that we have identified as days that we want to do trades. The other change we could look at is, what if we only traded certain hours of the day? For instance, we only traded in the European market, or we only traded in the US market, or we only traded in the US and the European market. What if we used a following stop? Would that help the system? So there are a lot of additional ways of refining the results that we achieve. What if we use different settings? In this example, I'm using 6 offset by 6, but what if we use slightly different settings? What kind of results will we get? This all gets pretty complicated, and you certainly don't want to sit in front of the screen watching the price moving over the moving average and then making a decision every single time. So what we've done is we've automated this whole process into a trading robot or an expert advisor, which is part of this course. And what the expert advisor does is it allows us to firstly test some of our settings, and it also allows us to optimize some of the settings. In other words, find out which ones have worked best in the past, and that will guide us into what works best in the future. What's more is, automating a trading technique such as this, you can actually see the impact of using filters like following stops, targets, time of day, day of the week, etc. very quickly. So now that you know all about the magic moving average crossover system, let's move on to the next lecture.